Make sure you look at that. Hello, Austin, Texas. We are back with another exciting program today. We've got several guests coming in here later on, some good video to show you. But before that, we're going to
anytime now
program that's pretty much an annual event here, since we have a lot of feel-good Christians in the area that don't know what the Bible says, and they're following the World Council of Churches and the National Council of Churches and all the religious racket foolishness that's going on in this community and across this nation. We're going to talk just briefly here for about the next 20 minutes about Christmas. Now, some of you all have your little Christmas trees up, and your exchanging gifts and all of this stuff. We're going to get into a little bit of biblical origins as to where all this foolishness came from, and the reason why we're doing it simply because if you expect your God to save you from any of the Roman Empire system that we're caught up in, it's not going to happen as long as you continue to participate in such foolishness. Joining me today, we have an old friend of mine, goes back several years, who has an organization, the Ron Neal organization, to stop the war and abolish the Federal Reserve, and which is growing. But I want to just bring you into this, Ron. I know you've spent 15 years studying the Bible.
Yeah, but more like 20.
Yeah, 20 years. Many years is just all different types of things. Jehovah's Witness, you went through all of that.
Yeah, Christadelphians, Christian Science. I've also been studied with the Scientologists. I've studied with a bunch of people.
Okay. Now I want to just first off, let me just mention some of the things that we're going to be talking about this for the next 15-20 minutes here. Is at least that I want to raise, and we also have some footage to go along with it while we're talking about it, is the Christmas tree, Santa. Santa, of course, is a take of Nimrod, the old king of Babylon. Yeah. And the Christmas tree, which basically was a symbol when Nimrod was buried. The Babylonians buried him with a wooden plank, and which sprouted, and ultimately the Babylonians used that as a deity to worship their king Nimrod. Yes. And then ultimately it went on for as far back as the heathen worshiping idols under the green trees. In fact, it got so bad that Christ, there's a picture of it right there. Yeah. Okay, but let's just get into a little bit of things here, and then we'll just go back and forth on this. What do you know, Ron? Tell us about what your knowledge of as far as the origins of Christmas and what this whole phony deal is about, if you would. Just go ahead and take it away.
Well, first of all, Jeff, I'd like to just mention that under the present circumstances, and I'm sorry if this offends your viewers, but I just don't feel like celebrating. I'm just not in a celebrating mood. Whenever we have things like Waco going on and our troops in foreign lands and people being killed everywhere, the injustice and the Federal Reserve System, I'll tell you one thing. We get rid of the Federal Reserve System and get rid of some of these wars, then we'll crack out a bottle of champagne. Right, but until then, I mean, we're at war.
Until we get our enemies.
We're just not celebrating. And at our family, we don't celebrate nothing. We don't celebrate holidays of no kind, no way, no shape, no form. But,
now let me ask you, how do we escape from being called the Scrooge then, or the Grinch? From all the people, of course, the world is conditioned.
I don't try to take the Christmas and stuff away from other people, but I just don't feel like celebrating myself.
But the origins of it, and all of that need to come out.
Okay, now the origins of that is brought out in the Encyclopedia Britannica and other places that are respectable. It'll show you just in no uncertain terms it's pagan. It's pagan. The Christianity has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with Christmas or the celebration of Christmas. The Catholic Church brought Saturnalia, the festival of Saturnalia, into the church back in the early part of the millennium, and they did this in order to incorporate as many people as they could in their church. People liked celebrating Saturnalia. Now, what is Saturnalia? It's this festival of the sun returning back to its back north, coming up.
In fact, I got some information here that the Roman Saturnalia they actually celebrated on December 25th.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
And they gave presents and all this sort of stuff. Right. So this is very old. This celebration. It's a tradition, Jeff. It's more or less folkish tradition that people have had for a very, very long time.
But it's a celebration not of righteous people.
No, not at all. Not of Christianity or anything like that. The Bible nowhere mentions anything whatsoever about Christmas. The Bible nowhere authorizes the celebration of Christmas or anything of this nature. I was going to share a few Bible scriptures, and I brought my copy of the New World Translation of the Holy Scriptures with me. And first of all, let's discuss why it is impossible for December 25th to be the birthday of Christ. Now, this is something that I assume all of your viewers are somewhat intelligent, and they're a little bit aware about some of the things that have been unearthed in recent decades. But the fact is that December 25th is in no way, shape, or form the birthday of Jesus Christ. And even some of your Catholic churches will admit to this. The priests and things, they'll tell you the December 25th is not the celebration of Christ. They more or less, they take December 25th to honor the birthday of Christ. And even some of your churches now are even talking about that.
In fact, if you look at, if biblically speaking, in Palestine, when Christ was born, the shepherds were
I was going to get into that.
Okay, go ahead.
If you'll open your copy of the Bible.
Oh, by the way, while we've got a steeple up here.
Well, now let's avoid the steeple right now. Just concentrate on the holiday.
Okay.
In Luke chapter 2, verse 8, we have a little sentence here that shows why it is not possible for December 25th to be the birthday of Jesus Christ. In Luke chapter 2, verse 8, it reads, let's see here. It says, "Now there were also in the same country shepherds living out of doors and keeping watch in the night over their flocks." Okay, now Bethlehem is on about the same latitude, Jeff, as San Antonio. And if you're familiar with this time of year in San Antonio, the nights many times are very cold. Sometimes there's even freezing snow and other things on the ground, although it's in the recent last 10 years it hasn't been very frequent. But this time of year is not the time of year when shepherds are living out of doors taking care of their flocks. They think that this may have been more towards the earlier part of fall, like September the 2nd or somewhere in that area, September the 5th, when Christ may have been born. But we know for a fact that if you go to Jerusalem, you'll see that it's covered with snow and ice, and shepherds do not watch over their flock at night in this type of weather. So December 25th is absolutely not the time in which Jesus Christ was born. Now let me progress further from that to show you what the Bible's view of revelry is. Now, the only thing that separates, the Christianity from the pagan holidays is that the pagans don't have any problem with revelry, whereas Christianity does. Now, Romans chapter 13, verse 13, we read some things that help rein in the spirit of Christmas. Christians should ask themselves, am I engaging in this type of activity? Here it says, "As in the daytime, let us walk decently, not in revelries and drunken bouts." One of the problems with Christmas is that usually around this time of year you have people getting involved in much more than just visiting their family. They get involved in actual drunkenness and in revelry and in gluttonous eating and this sort of thing.
And eating poor ham dinners. They're known for their ham dinners, which is forbidden.
In Galatians 5:21 also says this. It says that Christians should avoid envies, drunken bouts, revelries, and things like these. So, a person should ask themselves, is a Christmas celebration taking on this type of an aspect? At 1 Peter 4:3, the Apostle Peter commends, "For the time that has passed by is sufficient for you to have worked out the will of the nations when you proceeded in deeds of loose conduct, lust, excesses with wines, revelries, drinking matches, and illegal idolatries." Now, as far as giving honor to Christ on a certain day, let's look at that for a minute. First of all, Jesus Christ nowhere commanded that his apostles or disciples celebrate his birth.
Absolutely.
Instead, he commanded the celebration of his death, made provisions for that. And why is the day of our of his death more important than the day of his birth? Well, let's look at Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 1. And here it says this, "A name is better than good oil, and the day of death than the day of one's being born." Well, now, why is that so? Well, one reason why that is so is because at your death, you have the memory of all the things that this person has done, all the actions and the things that they've done throughout their life. That is of note. That's noteworthy. Whereas the birth of just another baby really is not that noteworthy. Wouldn't you agree?
Okay.
And that's why Jesus, in Luke chapter 22, verse 19 and 20, he gave...
I'm going to mention, you all might not be able to follow these verses, but that's all right. Just go ahead. Just continue on.
Yeah. In Luke chapter 22, verses 19 and 20, Jesus gave this command. It says also, he took a loaf, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to them, saying, "This means my body, which is to be given in your behalf. Keep doing this in remembrance of me." Also the cup in the same way after they had the evening meal, he saying, "This cup means the new covenant by virtue of my blood, which is to be poured out in your behalf." Here we see Jesus commemorating his death. He's authorizing the apostles to memorialize his death. And the Apostle Paul understood it that way. At 1 Corinthians chapter 11, we read this. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 25 and 26. The Apostle Paul says this, referring to Jesus, he said, "He did likewise respecting the cup also, after he had the evening meal, saying, This cup means the new covenant by virtue of my blood. Keep doing this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this loaf and drink this cup, you keep proclaiming the death of the Lord until he arrives." Now, these verses make clear that there is to be a celebration by Christians of the death of Jesus Christ. We have nothing of this nature regarding his birth. Christianity just is not any part of the Christmas celebration.
And as a side note, even the modern day Easter is a phony deal too.
Exactly.
The way it's presented,
Yes,
with the Easter eggs and the day and the whole thing.
Now the question also arises: should we observe the birth of anybody? I mean, should anyone's birthday be celebrated or in any way should be noteworthy? Is that, what is the Bible's view of birthdays overall? Well, the Bible nowhere condemns or forbids celebrating a birthday, nor does it advocate it, but it does give a very a little view that I would say is sort of a frown. Look at Matthew chapter 14, verse 6. There's just one place in the Bible where it mentions a birthday, and look at the light that it's shown in.
14, verse 6?
Yeah,
Okay.
Matthew 14, verse 6 here. I got the wrong book. Okay, here he says, "But when Herod's birthday was being celebrated, the daughter of Herodias danced at it and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Then she, under her mother's coaching, said, 'Give me here upon a platter the head of John the Baptist.'" Now, this is a birthday celebration in which the head of one of the saints was asked for, and this is the sort of the Bible's color or view, you might say, of birthday celebrations in general. It's not a very, very pleasant one.
The thing that I want to just emphasize, and I'm going to let you go on here with your presentation, Orion, is basically that this whole December 25th, the so-called Christmas,
Yeah.
Everything about it, from the trees to the exchange of gifts, which is in Revelations 11 here. It's the only time that there was a gift exchange in the Bible. I've got it right here. Is Revelations 11 verses 7 through 10, where basically the heathen were celebrating with a gift exchange from the killing of Christ and the prophets.
That's right.
And that's the only time. Okay, from the trees, we're in Jeremiah 10, verse 1 through 6. It talks about basically not to do as the heathen did, and that is to go out and cut them a tree and deck it without that the heathen that God was commanding His people to over and
I was hoping we could read that too. Jeremiah 10?
Yeah, Jeremiah 10, verse 1 through 6. It's a follower of idolatry. Now, this is basically the heathen have a history way back to Babylon of worshiping their idols under the groves of green trees. It's at least 17 times in the Bible.
Can I read this?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, this is pretty good here. Now, first of all, this is not dealing with Christmas, and it's not dealing with a Christmas tree. It's dealing with cutting down an idol. But you can almost see the Christmas tree in this passage of the nations at all. And do not be struck with terror even at the signs of the heavens, because the nations are struck with terror at them. For the customs of the peoples are just an exhalation, because it is a mere tree out of the forest that one has cut down, the work of the hands of the craftsman with the billhook. With silver and with gold one makes it pretty. With nails and with hammers they fasten them down, that none may reel. They are like a scarecrow of a cucumber field, and cannot speak. Without fail they are carried, for they cannot take any steps. Do not be afraid because of them, for they can do nothing calamitous, and what is more, the doing of any good is not with them.
Okay, your actual words is a little bit different from the King James.
This is the New World Translation I'm reading.
But it's all basically the same. It's telling you if you're really in God's camp, you don't be partaking in such foolishness as this.
That's right.
Right, and you could say it doesn't directly say anything about a Christmas tree, but the significance to the relationship is quite clear here.
That's right.
This is kind of what they're doing. They're putting up the trees under a day that Christ never wanted celebrating, on a day that was tied into the, what you call it, the Roman Saturnalia, which was December 25th. It's also tied into the 2-week midwinter festival of the heathen.
That's right.
And everything that goes along with this day, gift exchange, eating pork, ham dinners, the trees, Santa being the old Nimrod, king of Babylon, all of everything that's associated with this day is from or the origins are created by Christ's adversary.
The biggest thing, if your listeners are Christians and they want to follow the Bible's teaching on this, the biggest thing that you can point out is the total absence in Holy Scripture of even the mention of Christmas or any type of authorization for giving gifts or anything of this nature. Now, I don't like to, be just a wet blanket and spoil people's Christmas and stuff, but the fact is, right now, there really isn't that much to celebrate.
Well, that's true too. I mean, we're enslaved, and
that's
right. And in fact, if you study Rome and some of this, the foolishness, with the circus and the gladiators and all of this. It's just another way of keeping the slaves focused off their real condition.
That's exactly right. They want to make everything look like it's normal and that everybody's
all pretty and
everybody's happy and joyful.
Right.
And the fact is there's a lot of people in this world that are suffering and they're not very happy. And after we get rid of these conditions that bring about so much misery and unhappiness, then it'll be an occasion for celebration and happiness and thanksgiving. But right now we're all very much duped slaves and under a terrible tyranny, and it's really not time to celebrate at all. Sorry to put a wet blanket on your Christmas, folks, but you can put that underneath your tree with everything else.
Go continue on with your presentation. Or is that basically?
Well, that and the truth. The truth is that the Bible nowhere mentions Christmas. It does not authorize a celebration. The Bible specifically, Ecclesiastes 7:1 says that the day of a person's death is better than the day of their birth.
And the origins of that December 25th are all
totally pagan. Totally pagan.
Well, but even worse than that, the adversaries of God and Christ are the origins that go back to Babylon and Rome and all of this. So when you partake it, to me, it's the biggest abomination of Christ because it's a day where everything about it is antichrist.
Yeah.
Under the disguise of Christ. It's a mockery of Christ.
Yeah.
And this is why, to me, the reason why it's so important to believe it, and it doesn't matter whether you call yourself a Christian or whatever it is.
Yeah.
If we expect, even an atheist, the fact is, if we expect to get out of our current situation or ask God for guidance, if you believe that there's a God, there's no way it's going to happen as long as we continue to partake in such foolishness. And
Well,
continue to
it
be-
makes it more difficult. I'm not going to say there's no way we can get out of it without this, but the thing is it does make it a little more difficult because right now is a time of great stress on people. You have the highest rate of suicides and other things. These holidays really put a big strain on the family.
Plus, it's also a merchant day too. Everyone
Yes.
ends up in debt, and,
That's
and the
right.
stores
and the
the
Jewish
merchant-
merchants, they really like to make a killing on
The
it.
Jewish-
They sure do. They make a lot of money on this celebration, believe you me.
Okay, now Ron, is that basically what you wanted to say here? or-
Then remember, the Bible does not have a good attitude towards any type of birthday celebration. It mentions it just once, and here someone's, saints martyred because of a birthday celebration. Christ nowhere authorized any celebration of his birth, but commanded the celebration instead of his death. And the fact that the Bible frowns very heavily on any type of revelry or any type of overeating or drunkenness. This is specifically,
And
not,
let's
Christians
keep,
are not
I keep
to do that.
the food laws as well too.
No.
It does, and then of course the big deal is your ham dinner. You get into the Christmas spirit and you have your big ham dinner.
I always thought about the turkey. We're a bunch of turkey people.
Let me just make a. I want to make sure that all this that gets in here, Ron. You did an excellent job, but let's just briefly go over some of this. First off, I want to just mention that the law of Moses, which I happen to prescribe to, at least to a point, these World Council of Churches business, the national, the organized religious racket. I call them the Obey Caesar churches.
That's basically all they're for.
Where you give, these governments are here to
In
bow down to
in ancient
them.
Babylon, that's the function they served, is to dupe the minds of the masses where they wouldn't rise up against the state.
That's right.
Which was Nimrod and his strong arms.
And then now I do want to mention the steeples. Ron, tell us briefly, we're looking at a steeple right here.
Let's not look.
No, I'll go
That's
ahead.
right.
I'll go ahead and mention that the origins of the steeple actually go back to Babylon,
Yes.
where it was Nimrod's erect penis.
Yeah.
The Babylonians worshipped Nimrod's erect penis as he laid on his back, shining up towards the sun. It was a worship of sun god, and that's what all of these ridiculous, these phony churches.
How could a person go into one of those buildings knowing that?
Yeah, well, see, but see, I went into them for 32 years and wasn't even cognizant of it.
I know.
But right there it is, folks, and then the cross there at the top. That is actually the origins of that go back to Tammuz, who was Nimrod's son, and the Babylonians used to wear a T around their neck to worship Tammuz, who was Nimrod's son, and then of course the Christian business says it's Christ and his cross. The fact is, it's really an initial T for Tammuz, who was the son of Nimrod.
In Egypt, a loop was placed around it, and it represented a fertility between the union of the two sex organs, conjugal relationship.
Oh, isn't that nice?
Yeah, and you think about that every time you go into one of those church buildings.
I want to also mention that 17 times in the Bible at least references the heathen worshiping idols under the groves of green trees. In fact, it got so bad that Christ ordered his disciples to cut it down. If we could run that Jeremiah 10 one more time, I know we had it up on a slate there. If we could go ahead and hit that one more time.
It's going up right now.
Okay. Also, this idea about lying to your kids, about Santa coming down a chimney, and all of this nonsense, this foolishness.
Yeah, that's something that we should never do, is lie to our children, and it teaches them to lie. Also, the belief in a Santa Claus can be confused with a belief in God. And if when they find out that there is no Santa Claus, then they're tempted to think, well, maybe there's no God as well. It really befuddles me sometimes why the Catholic priests have set this thing up the way they have. And make no bones about it, the Catholic priests are the ones who have set up Christmas. I mean, this is entirely a Roman Catholic thing that they invented, and they did it to bring about a mood or a certain type of attitude in the public mind.
And I would just mention that the original obelisk from Egypt is now sitting in St. Peter's Square. They actually hauled that, and it's now sitting in at the Vatican building at St. Peter's Square. Again, the Nimrod.
Yeah, nothing would surprise me at all about the Roman Catholic Church. The The priests,
Well, if you study the
they're working there
Inquisition, you know, that
are
kind of
full-time, and they have a lot of time to think up a bunch of things.
all of this stuff, the wreath, the stocking, the entire the entire Christmas celebration is
Yeah.
tied into winter solstice, which is the
Yeah.
2-week winter festival of the heathen.
Yeah.
And then, of course, December 25th was the, what was it, the Roman Saturnalia?
Saturnalia.
Okay, that was actually the day. Also, some of the foolishness that goes along. We've mentioned the ham dinner and how we all sit down to our ham dinner, which of course is forbidden food according to Moses' law. The steeples, we've discussed that. The gift exchange again. The only time there was a gift exchange in the Bible was Revelations 11, verse 7 through 10, which basically the heathen had a gift exchange because the prophets and Christ had been killed. So it was a celebration to them that righteous people had been.
Let me give the viewers some sources that they can go to. There is a book that is published called The Two Babylons. The Two Babylons. Now, this book, if you will get it from either the library, I think you can get it at the Boston Public Library, or you can write some various organizations that get it. The people with the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, they can give you detailed information on this. Just contact any Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses in the area. Also the Christadelphians. The Christadelphians have some congregations here in the Austin area. They can tell you about this. And let's not forget Herbert W. Armstrong with his Worldwide Church of God. Now, Herbert's dead, but the Worldwide Church of God's still around, and I think also his son, who I believe is a homosexual, he has a rival church, Church of God International. You can find out the truth about the Saturnalia celebration that's called Christmas from any one of these sources. And in fact, I think a lot of the preachers now are even telling their congregations that that it's not really the celebration of Christ's birth. It's the a pagan celebration, but that they do it in honor of Christ because Christ was born. They think he should be honored on this day instead of some pagan feast or something.
But
then they go right along with it. So
yeah, then they go right along with. Let me just to wrap up this segment here, Ron. First off, I appreciate you coming on the program. Then. Finally, we do a lot of talking on this, and we're going to be doing it here the next couple hours. We do a lot of talking on this program about international finance, the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, the World Bank, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, the International Bank of Settlements. We're basically these forces, these stockholders.
Yeah.
Whether it be Joseph Edgar Bronfman, the president of the World Jewish Congress, or whoever these people that own stock into these international banking cartels. There is a definite connection when you look at the World Council of Churches, the National Council of Churches, the Vatican. When you see the whole religious racket, whether it be in America, whether it be Pentecostal, Baptist, the whole sphere tied into this whole religious, what I call obey Caesar churches.
Yes.
Okay, there is a definite connection to the people who finance wars and the people that finance these organized religions.
That's right.
And this is the ultimate tyranny.
That's
because the masses are being controlled economically through taxes, through welfare, and they're also being controlled spiritually through this obey Caesar churches. The religious racket uses this Romans 13, bow down to the government because that's what's ordained by God. The fact is, this country was founded as we the people were the government.
Now, you speak of this country being founded. They didn't celebrate Christmas when the country was founded.
That's right, but the fact is,
that's all been brought into the Catholic Church.
This country was founded. This country was founded with we were the kings.
Yes.
We're sovereign. We were the kings. We don't have to bow down to Clinton and his New World Order. But the religious racket, they throw out this Romans 13 nonsense. You got to bow down to your slave masters because they were ordained by God to with the sword. You take the sword, and the slave masters use their laws to enslave us and whack us with.
That's right.
This is all part of
the tool that Nimrod used. He was unable to keep the masses under control with just his brute squad.
Right.
So he put some priests out there that looked at the heavens and that looked at the stars and said, well, now these things affect your life. And the next thing they know, they did. People's lives were orbiting with the stars. They kept telling them about them. You have three pillars on which our civilization is based: religion, politics, and commerce. And all three of these pillars are used to enslave us under the current regime that we're under. Most people don't realize that they're enslaved, but when you have nothing but lies being fed to you and fraud everywhere, and everything you look at is just a lie, I mean, how can you say that you're not being manipulated and controlled?
Right, and the whole religious racket is one of those powerful elements.
It's perhaps the most powerful of all of them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Ron Neal, do you have any final comments before we wrap up this section? And we're going to go to just a quick break, and we've got several guests coming in here. But before that, go ahead, Ron. I appreciate you coming on the program.
Well, it's
today.
always
and
pleasure to be
if
with
you could
you.
go ahead and
best thing I can say is that when your friends get the Christmas spirit and they want you to celebrate it, just tell them no.
you had a little. Didn't you have a little jingle? Do you
No,
know
I don't want to sing a little jingle. I don't want to.
Okay, Ron. Well, the fact of the matter is,
That was the producer's Christmas.
you and I and many of us, many other people now are starting to realize that we are a controlled people,
Yeah, if you
a
look,
manipulated
well,
people.
also something else too.
And
whenever-
it even goes so far as to the religious racket.
That's
They obey
right.
Caesar churches and all of this nonsense.
Look at how much debt is caused this time of year by people giving gifts that they don't need to have. I mean, you just run up a big debt. This helps the banks and the credit card companies and stuff like this.
And also, again, if you read Revelations 11, verse 7 through 10, you'll see that it's the whole gift exchange idea is based upon celebrating of the crucifixion of righteous people. Yeah. The heathen were actually exchanging gifts. This was
John
the
Baptist
only
in
time.
particular.
Yeah, the only time that this happened was. So the fact is, Ron. You and I both know we've got our work cut out for us.
Yeah.
And if you study the Inquisition and some of these other religious fiascos,
Yeah.
and I won't go so far as to say it's the Bible itself. I believe the Bible's been tampered with.
Yeah.
But I believe that there's a certain amount of truth to the Bible. I believe in a supreme being. But let's face it, this whole religious racket.
It's just terrible.
Yeah,
It really is. I've been fighting that forever.
It's just the ultimate part of the slavery on mankind is the world religious. The world, like I say, the World Council of Churches, the National Council of Churches, and the seminaries, which are nothing more than a front for Freemasonry. Yeah. The whole religious racket is definitely part of the enslavement, and why I think we're very much up against. We're on the verge of eating a new world order.
Yeah, that's true. I think Judge Rutherford with the Watchtower Society said it best. He said, "Religion is a snare and a racket." And I mean, that is absolutely the truth, because you look at the amount of time and money spent just consuming people. Now, people, again, want to get together with their families.
That's all fine. If you want to give gifts,
but you
that's
see,
fine.
whenever you feel obligated to give,
yeah,
that takes really the joy out of the spirit of giving. If you want to give because you love someone and you want to give them something, then
we're not talking
gift,
about
that's
that.
one
No
thing.
one's talking about
but then when you have a season set aside where people have to give a gift, or these little office parties where everybody's supposed to bring a gift, it's just phony.
And a tree,
just expensive,
and all of this under the disguise of Christ. It's the worst abomination,
and all
mockery of Christ.
These housewives that some of them may have jobs or full-time jobs, part-time jobs. They have to set aside time to go through all of this stuff for preparing this big season occasion, and they ought to stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that your family doesn't have a tree up like mine.
No, we don't. We've got some encyclopedias.
Mine ended
instead.
up over the fence 4 years ago, and that's where she stayed. Okay, one more time, Ron Neal. Do you have any final comments?
That's it.
Okay, one more time. We can run that Jeremiah piece, and folks, as you're looking at your trees there, the fancy, pretty colors to it. Just remember that everything that's involved with December 25th is an abomination of Jesus Christ, and God told His people that if you follow my laws, my statutes, and my commandments, you will be a blessed people. However, if you turn from my ways and not follow my laws and statutes, you will be a cursed people. You want to know why you're in the mess that you're in, folks? All you got to do is look around you and see the foolishness that you are partaking in, and that might be a good clue as to why.
Yeah, the football season included.
Yeah, the football and the whole bracket. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it.
Sure.
When I'm in Austin, I always listen to the Jeff Davis show and have a good cup of coffee. So I would suggest you do the same. You want information? You want truth? Want a good time? No. Information and truth.
President, Republican.
Let me see your hand.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you, President.
That's the counter.
Oh, okay.
That's the counter. The de facto
We have our legitimate Texas Rangers. The Rangers you got now is people federalized, federal boys, DPS guys masquerade as Rangers.
Yeah, you know about
And the
that.
true Rangers, they don't like it. There's some
You know.
I'm talking with my bud, Danny, and he says he's going in to see Bob Bullock. I bet it's a lot easier to get in and watch the Jeff Davis show than it is to get in and see Bob Bullock. I voted for you, Bobby. I really did. I did. How are you, Danny? And what are we talking about with Mr. Bullock?
Well, we're trying to get more services to keep people from having to go to nursing homes.
Right, to keep people mainstream and keep them living and keep them productive. Remember, you can listen to me weekdays. I'm Joyce Isaacs from KVET Radio, 1300 on the AM. And you can see Jeff Davis all of Monday night. He just goes on and on and on and on and on. I've never seen anything like it. No, he hasn't either, okay?
Oh, Lord. Now I'm not going to be able to show this.
You know why?
Hawaii meets Mexico City.
I can't show that.
But you can show this. This is
Yeah.
no bull.
I got some.
No bull. You need to be listening to my show weekdays. Right on KVET AM. It's no bull. I tell you, just donate, okay? You go out with some guys, and you have a little margarita, and you have a little lunch, and the next thing you know, here you are. I can't even explain it to you. But then I can't explain Jeff Davis' show either, and he's on forever and ever. You think these are longhorns? You ought to see he's a long talk is what he is. Remember, it's all here. You can call me weekdays, 390-5483. I've got more bull than this on the radio. Okay? I love you.
Well, honey, do you boys get tired riding around in the back of this truck?
And he won't show it on TV, promises.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I
it's on.
played that game before.
He says he won't use the tape.
Well, you get over there and put your hand on that one.
Okay,
Okay.
drop down just a little bit more. There you go.
Listen, give these girls a hand, okay? You can't see them on the Jeff Davis show, but you need to give these ladies a hand. And this man over here, he had these pictures in the truck, trying to sell them down the mayor's office. And then he's got these bulls in the back. I tell you, you know, this is an interesting city. And you thought the Joyce Isaacs show was strange, and you thought Jeff Davis was strange. Just get out in the street a while. You want to